Hello, my name is William Prager, and this is my final presentation for IDS 402 Wellness class at Southern New Hampshire University. I'm presenting today on concussions, a health and wellness issue among high school football players. Now, let it be known that a high school athlete can receive a concussion in many different athletic activities, but this presentation will mainly focus on football. I'm focusing on football due to the issue that most head injuries in high school athletics have been found to occur in football-related activities. The National Collegiate Association of Athletics, also known as the NCAA, and the NFL and the National Football League, also known as the NFL, have been involved in lawsuits from former athletes claiming of not being attended to properly after a head injury and from repeated head trauma. Players in these suits have complained about prolonged memory loss, seizures, and chronic depression. In Wellness 402, we have to find a link between our topic and the 8 dimensions of wellness. My links between the 8 dimensions of wellness and concussions and post-concussion syndrome are emotional, physical, social, financial, environmental, occupational, spiritual, and intellectual. When we talk about emotional, a high school athlete who faces dealing with a head injury may suffer from emotional setbacks such as irritability, depression, and other emotional issues. Physical. The physical elements are described late in the presentation when we talk about signs and symptoms of concussion and post-concussion syndrome. Social. One who suffers from post-concussion syndrome may become recluse or seem not very interested in everyday activities or activities they would usually enjoy. Financial. There could be costs associated in dealing with a concussion or post-concussion syndrome through medical expenses and tests. Environmental. Environmental factors could include the athlete's safety gear, such as pads, helmets, and so on. It also entails proper tackling techniques and the precautions to reduce the risk of concussion. Occupational. Those who suffer from post-concussion issues could have future problems after football, mainly dealing with post-concussion issues such as memory loss could affect one's occupation later on in life. Spiritual. An athlete who suffers a long-term effect of post-concussion syndrome may feel lethargic and hinder one's purpose, motivation, and overall meaning. Intellectual. It's been shown that those who suffer from post-concussion issues or prolonged head trauma have problems when they try to get back into everyday routine of going to school, and it's harder for them to respond to learning activities. Concussions among high school football athletes. The highest occurrence of concussions in the level of football played, high school football activities are the highest. Research done shows that there is a 11.2% rate of a concussion happening per 10,000 athletic exposures. Basically, the athletic exposure they're talking about is an actual tackle. This is usually through play, actual gameplay, and also practice. This is important information because some researchers now believe that younger minds, or at that age of high school age, are developing. So their minds are developing. So it takes them more time to actually heal. It's also noted that in 2014 there were 5 high school athletes that had passed away due to a head injury while participating in football activities. The health and wellness issue at the high school level is basically a lack of care, lack of expertise, budget concerns, and a lack of education. All 4 of these are issues in taking care of the athletes who suffer a concussion, whether it be mild to severe. When we talk about lack of care and lack of expertise, we're talking about maybe the school doesn't have the budget to hire a medical doctor or an athletic trainer to be on the sideline to evaluate a player's should one come down with a concussion? Post-concussion syndrome. Basically, post-concussion syndrome is one who has had a concussion but faces issues of trying to get back into everyday functioning. This is prolonged. This is from the concussion, and it's issues that keep popping up after a person or an athlete has suffered a concussion. These could be new symptoms after a person suffers a concussion. An athlete could notice a change in their ability to think, remember, concentrate. Sleep patterns could change. They could develop personality issues, a lack of interest in everyday activities, continued walking, standing, and lightheadedness issues. You could see how this could affect one's overall well-being. Post-concussion issues in high school football players. There's an increased problem paying attention or concentrating, problems in remembering or learning new information, longer than normal times to complete assignments, difficulty organizing tasks, inappropriate and impulsive behaviors in school, irritability, fatigue, difficulties handling the school environment, complaints of physical issues such as headache, nausea, and dizziness, again, affecting 8 dimensions of wellness. The anatomy of a concussion. When talking about the anatomy of the concussion, I basically just took this slide because it just has a football player and it's showing if a person actually gets hit. If a person here actually gets hit from a head-on-head collision, you can see how the brain can vibrate through the skull. There is a membrane which protects, a fluid type membrane that protects the brain. But whenever a person is running at an average of 20 miles an hour and hits another person, usually this fluid is unable to actually help protect the brain, and the brain actually runs through the shock wave and hits the skull area, which causes bruising. As you can see in this picture here, it causes bruising of the brain tissue, which basically is how a concussion actually happens. If you'd like, I'll keep this on for a few more minutes so you can see some of the information that's provided on the slide. But basically, the concussion happens just due to head-on-head collisions, or ones where a football player hits the ground, basically hitting his head on the ground. The University of Florida study, concussion knowledge in high school football players. At the University of Florida, they did a study basically to assess how much knowledge student athletes have, especially football players, of the signs and symptoms of having a concussion. It's known that participating in sports while experiencing symptoms of a concussion can also be serious. A study was done in the state of Florida, surveyed 334 high school football players from 11 high schools to determine knowledge of concussion symptoms. Their findings: most correctly identified headache was identified with headache, dizziness, confusion. Overall, most knew about a persistent headache. Education findings were mostly from parents and other formal sources. So the only information a student athlete was getting was from their parent, or maybe even friends, and say a coach. Overall, high school football players had no type of adequate knowledge, though, of the symptoms and consequences of concussion. Cultural change in football. There needs to be a cultural change in football to assess the changes of basically head-on-head contact and development of concussion. Acknowledgement. Concussions are a serious issue, not only in football, but in sports in general. Education, not just from parents and friends. The University of Florida study showed that education is needed from medical personnel, coaches, and also athletic trainers. There needs to be better education of signs, symptoms, how you feel, because it can be a serious issue if a person hasn't fully healed from a concussion and continues on in their activities, in football activities. It's okay to be hurt. It's in the spirit of competition, the team first. Um, this is the old adage, play hurt, be the hero, it'll be okay. Well, sometimes it's not okay to be the hero all the time, and it's sometimes not okay in the spirit of competition if you're unable to walk. So the fact is, it's a serious issue still playing and participating in football activities while still having a concussion. More research is needed. It's still not completely understood how long-term exposures to the head lead to long-term neurological issues. And that's the scary part. We have no idea what these long-term hits, taking hit after hit after hit, can have on one's neurological system. Rule changes to reduce concussion rates. New rules in high school football. Any player who initiates contact with a helmetless player will receive a personal foul penalty. It is illegal for any player who has lost his helmet to participate beyond the immediate action during the play. An added clarification that if a player loses his helmet during a play and is not the result of an action of a member of the opposing team, the player must sit out for at least 1 down. This goes more into the fact of cultural as well, by changing rules to reduce the rates of helmet-to-helmet contact or contact with a player who has lost their helmet. I want to thank you for taking the time to review my slideshow and the topic of concussions, a health and wellness issue among high school football players. Again, I thank you for your time.